Hello automators, I'm excited to share with you the latest additions I've made to my smart home. New automations that we built as well as new products. So you're gonna get an insight into how I'm building out my smart home. Let's give her. This is our first ever video in this new series on our channel. I'm excited to share my journey of upgrading and building out my smart home. Now, most of the time I'll be showing you additions that we've made, whether it's a product or an automation or both, and I will only be showing you the best things. There could be a few times where I'm removing things or changing things up, so this series is really about the journey. We're going to give you the high level reasons that we added it to our home and found value in it. If it's an automation, I'm going to share with you what that automation is, but not necessarily the full breakdown for how to build it. And that's where you guys come in, because you'll see towards the end of the video, we have a section, it's either a Q&A or an update or something you've given us, maybe a quick tip. That's part of the journey that's driven by you. I would love to hear what you're adding to your home and what you are working on in your journey in the comments below. Now, this month's theme is heading back to basics. Since we moved into this home a year ago, I've been testing lots of products, but it's taken me a while to really figure out what I wanted to do and how we're gonna live in this home. So now that I feel like I have a good understanding of that and what I can and can't automate, I'm ready to build out the basis for the next year of growth in our smart home. That means this month we're gonna talk about hubs, radios, networks, and a little light. In case you haven't noticed, I started creating tutorials on Home Assistant, and this month, probably my favorite addition to my home is related to that. This is what's called a Bluetooth proxy. This is an ESP32 board, and it can be loaded with firmware that is freely available to you. Now, that firmware lets you connect it to the Wi-Fi in your home and then connect it to many Bluetooth devices. The reason this was so important for me was because Home Assistant Green, which is what I'm using, doesn't have a Bluetooth radio on it. So up until this point, I didn't have Bluetooth on Home Assistant. And once I added just one of these, many SwitchBot and Govee products popped up on the device's screen and were available to add. This is local control, and oftentimes it's faster than it would be through other methods for connecting these products to Home Assistant. Also, with many of the devices, especially the ones from SwitchBot, I'm getting more options for automation. A good example of that is the roller shades. They provide me the light levels outdoors because I've attached a solar panel to them for charging the battery. Now, SwitchBot's done a lot of work with Bluetooth integration on Home Assistant, and using this has improved their products in my mind. They're more reliable and they respond faster. It's also helped me with certain Govee products, most of which are sensors, and those are traditionally hard to create automations with, and they almost all do not work outside of the Govee app. But that's changed with this little box. My garage is detached and it's pretty far away from my home. That has made it difficult to connect some devices I've put out there. I placed one of these proxies out in my garage for that exact reason. It's inside of one of these 3D printed containers and I've attached it to the wall, but I could just leave it sitting on a table connected to its USB power. Putting one out there has given me access to 3 different Bluetooth products in Home Assistant, and that's just in my garage. So I have 2 more of these in my home, and they all work together to find Bluetooth gear. To build one of these, you'll need 3 things. You need an ESP32 board, a breadboard or a 3D printed case like I have, and you'll need to install the ESP Home add-on in Home Assistant. You'll have to load a ready-made firmware onto the board by connecting it to your PC or Mac, and then Honestly, it's a few clicks and Bluetooth devices start popping up from around your home. Now with this, I've produced a few automations, but I'm going to share with you the one that we enjoy the most. Whenever I'm opening either my back door to head outside or my garage's man door, I'm usually going to open the other door within about 5 seconds. Up until this point, I've been using keys and in a few cases, the apps to unlock my door. But now I've used Home Assistant and this Bluetooth proxy connected to my Lock Pro in order to synchronize two locks. My garage man door has the Lock Pro and the back door has the Lock Ultra. They're unlocking and locking at the same time. Now I like this first of all because I don't have to pull out a key and it looks pretty darn fancy when anyone walks up to the other door and it's already unlocked for them. My kid kind of still thinks it's magic. I also like this for a geeky reason. Now, when you try to pair two SwitchBot locks together in their app, it tells you you have to have the same model. So I'm just plain old excited when I can defeat some weird rule in an app. Now, you might have noticed that these two automations don't lock things up. That created cycling when I tried to create automations that locked as well. So they would unlock and lock all the time. And there's maybe a way to do that, but I just used the auto lock feature in both of those lock settings and I'm good to go. Now for me, this is better than using a SwitchBot hub out in the garage. First of all, because it's cheaper. And second of all, it's allowing me to connect some Govee devices to Home Assistant as well. Now on average, you'll spend about 10 bucks Canadian to get one of these set up in your home. And that's if you buy a breadboard instead of 3D printing this case. My garage lighting sucked. I had two low lumen ugly yellow bulbs in there and it was just a pain in my rear end to see anything. I solved this with Skyline and a fancy workbench. I went from this lighting at my workbench to this lighting. I also went from this lighting at all of my tools to this lighting. And while I do have a physical switch to control Skyline, I've automated it entirely. So whenever I go to do work, I have proper lighting. Skyline is turning on because I've placed a Zigbee contact sensor on the side of this workbench. Whenever I lift it up, the contact goes open and I run a simple automation with Homey. Whenever I close the bench, the contact goes closed and again, a simple automation runs and it turns off the light. Now, Govee Skyline reaches up to 6 meters when you buy it and that let me stretch it all the way across my garage. I could tighten it up a little more, make it a perfectly straight line, but I let it sit like this. It feels a little more natural in this space and I don't want any wear and tear on Skyline. You can just rotate it to change where you'd like the light to shine. You actually just spin both sides of what's called the rotating bar here. And the tension between the two sides, or the tension on the strip here, will keep it suspended at that spot. This allows you to decide how much of the light is on your wall or focused on another place. The automation is as simple as getting that contact sensor to move, but there were other situations where I wanted the light. So, when I'm driving in, I want the light to turn on. I just make sure I have good light as we park our car. I also initially set it up as a light that turns on when I walk in the garage. So there are lots of different options, and you heard in the last segment, I was using the Bluetooth proxy to get outdoor light levels. That plus a Govee presence sensor is more than enough to make a really good set of automations, but I'm gonna live with this working the way it is today and see which automations I want to make. So let me know what you would make with all of those assets at your disposal. I'll be interested and maybe I'll do it. Now the fact is, this has changed how I view going in my garage. I have good lighting whenever I need to do work, and I have enough control and just the right amount of automation to enjoy this. This has helped all the way across the garage. It's provided me a work light for when I'm working on some other things. If networking and Wi-Fi isn't the biggest problems in our smart home, well, it's a close second to Google being so stupidly finicky. This month, I added Eero Max 7 and an Eero Outdoor 7. Plus, I did some testing with Eero Pro 7. Before I had this beast of a router, I had a TP-Link Wi-Fi 7 system, and it was running really well until about Christmas, and I noticed the system struggling to add more devices. I also noticed some dropping, and this was becoming a big problem whenever I tried to bring in a new smart device. Even more frustrating to me personally was I shouldn't have been hitting a limit. The numbers say this can handle many more, and I had said to many of you that I was having a good experience with the decos, but it had continued to deteriorate, and I decided that it was time to move in a different direction. Because of my struggles, I went out and I got 2 of these Eero 7 Max points and an Outdoor 7 point. I installed those in my home, and here's what it solved. Number 1, I stopped having devices drop off the network. In fact, each Eero Max can hold up to 250 devices, and it actually feels like I'll get close to that. Number 2, I stopped having to reboot my network every day. I probably reboot it about once a week. Now, the 2 Maxes covered the same area as TP-Link did with their 3 points, and my speeds actually got a little better around my whole home. I also got 2 10 gigabit ports and 2 2.5s. With the outdoor unit, I was able to wire that into my network with a PoE switch, and then I placed that in my garage. And if I wanted to, I could get a second Outdoor 7 and get my Wi-Fi way out from my home. So for you farmers or acreage people, it is actually an amazing technology. See our full guide to see how that works, but it's wild. Here's what we went from. 3 TP-Link Deco mesh points with Wi-Fi 7, with 1 being on each floor of my home and with each point being located in the middle of my home. Here's what we went to. 2 Eero Max units with 1 on our main floor and 1 on our basement floor. Then a wired outdoor point that could have been left wirelessly if I wanted it to, but it's wired in the garage. And everything is wired in because all of these ports that I have. And I also like that I didn't have to use like Eero network switches or PoE components. It just all worked with existing stuff that I had. I said earlier that I had Eero Pro 7 in my home too, and after working with the Max units and seeing that their price was a lot higher than the decos, I wanted to compare apples to apples. So I went out, I asked Amazon to help me with this, and they sent me a 3-pack of the Pro 7s. Now the pricing for these and the BE63 decos from TP-Link are almost exact. So I pulled out the Max units and installed these Pro versions instead. Now, one of the really neat things about Eero is that they give you a setting that lets you just add points by connecting them with an Ethernet cable to your network. Then I went through, I compared a lot of the speeds and the coverage and the stats that I had measured with these decos and also with the Eero Maxes. And I came to the conclusion that the ranking went like this: 1 Max, 2 Pro, and 3 Deco. And I say that not because the speed was so much better, the coverage wasn't all that different either. The reason is reliability. The Pros perform every bit as good as the Max in terms of reliability, and to me, in the end, that's what I want from my Wi-Fi and my network. I don't want to have to be constantly playing or fighting with things, and I'm not having to with Eero. I also think the app experience is better. There's just a few reasons here where I prefer this experience over this. There's also kind of one thing that helps me with the base of my smart home with Eero. What I noticed is that Home Assistant can use the Eero thread border routers. So I instantly gained a number of thread nodes for Home Assistant. That's on top of the Zigbee hub on each Eero point, which that is restricted to Amazon, so I'm not using it a lot, but the thread component is big. So from my perspective, you know, a consumer grade Wi-Fi 7 solution, the Pro is kind of the right price point for a lot of people. I obviously love having the Max for the extra range and a little bit of extra overall speed and the extra ports, but there's a more interesting option that I have taken advantage of. After I had put everything on the network, done all my testing, I then went and I reverted back to these two Maxes in their original position. But then I added a third Pro unit on our top floor. This has given me Wi-Fi 7 throughout my home, really good coverage, really strong speeds everywhere. What I'm trying to tell you is that you can upgrade one node at a time. So if it's not in the budget today, you can buy one of these Max units, then you can mix and match with other Eeros as long as you have those in your home. Whew, tough session. That's a tough session. I know that was a little complex and it kind of bounced through a couple of topics, and you'll see in these videos as we go towards the end of them, I was thinking that the more complex stuff had to sit at the end. I'd love your feedback on that. It's not dangerous to live in Canada. At least not where I am. But I still wanted to build a full security system, and I tell you, there's nothing I hate more than having to pay a monthly fee for security. Plus, if I built a security system, I would get a reduction on my insurance. So I built a DIY self-monitored security system with Homey. Now, I have a full guide up on screen, up there, I think. And of course, down in the links if you want to check that out later. That video has all the products I use, all kinds of tips and tricks for building these kinds of systems too. Now, I did get my insurance reduction, so that's a nice benefit, but I also got a really convenient security system that can be armed and disarmed in a number of ways. And we're able to use a ton of different products that we've had in our home in the past within this system. So let me show you a quick demo of how many of the components work together. See you later. Just activated see you later alarm. You can see we've gone into armed, and we have a countdown of our alarm delay right here. So now our system is fully armed, and let's just open up our contact sensor here. There you go. That is playing. That is playing. It's going crazy in here. Hopefully. In the end, I placed this control panel at my back door. It allows us to arm and disarm, plus it announces little things for us. I have my dashboard sitting in the kitchen as well, and that includes screen grabs from my Ring doorbell as well as my Eufy camera system. I'm able to monitor and adjust the system status through that too. This is all being done with an app that you install on Homey called Heimdall. And if you couple that with another app called Smart Presence, you could pretty much automate the entire thing to arm and disarm when everyone leaves the home or when someone arrives. So you've already seen the Ring keypad. That's a Z-Wave device, and it can connect to Homey Pro. The Ring doorbell, you've already seen that. There's a couple of different ways you can bring that into Homey. The Eufy integration is pretty good, and that's how we're getting screen grabs as well as being able to use those as a motion sensor. Since they're outdoors, we can know when someone's coming up to the home. I really like that. The myriad of contact sensors and motion sensors and presence sensors that can be connected to Homey means that you can cover your entire home. Now, I primarily used Zeus and Aqara gear for that because they're relatively inexpensive. In terms of automations, the biggest one is making sure that the system is armed when you need it. The control panel just happens through configuration, so you don't have to create an automation for that. But if you want to use that smart presence method where if your phones are connected to Wi-Fi or if you're in the area, then you need to use this kind of an automation. Now, our 4 additions this month: Bluetooth Proxies for Home Assistant, Govee Skyline as a work light bench, and a full rebuild of our home network, and a full DIY self-monitored security system. I'd have a hard time picking which of those had the biggest impact, as all of them has, pretty much transformed what I can do and how I feel about my home this month. So I'm really happy with all of these additions. All of the products, they're linked below. And all of the videos where we show you how to do these things are available in the links in the description too. I've already kind of shown you one of the big things coming for next month. That's a maybe, okay? Because I gotta get that working right. But I'm also working on a couple of big additions to Home Assistant. We're gonna build out the types of devices we can connect to that system. And I wanna build out our power monitoring system in a big way too. So that's what I have coming up for the next month. But I'm also gonna work on refining a couple of the things that we talked about this month. At the end of these videos, I wanted to make a little segment that's more driven by you. So we won't do this 100% of the time, but we're either gonna pull a question or two from last month's video. So if you have a question, go ahead, ask it. And if I can't answer it, hopefully next month I'll be answering it on screen here. I think this month I'm gonna give you a little tip for home automation as it relates to one of the things we talked about today. A number of you came out as soon as I produced the Bluetooth proxy video. I know you Home Assistant guys, you know what you're doing, but you rightfully told me that there were PoE models and that there were models that used USB-C instead of the micro USB one I bought. In Canada, I bought this because it was cheap, it was quick, and I don't care that it's micro USB. I don't know why people care so much about USB-C on something like this. Anyways, for those of you who don't know, yeah, these little boards, it's kind of a rabbit hole. You can really customize what you're gonna do with these. You can customize the type of connection, so you can have PoE or USB-C, a lot of different methods here to connect and power this up. There's also a lot of projects like presence sensors and temperature and humidity sensors and even more that you can build based off of this. So this is a big rabbit hole. Lots of people have done great content on this, lots of tutorials and guides you can follow, and these are really inexpensive. This is one of the reasons I wanted to get into Home Assistant, because I could play with this kind of stuff. I'm sure now maybe you're looking for the Bluetooth proxy video or the video that shows you how to connect SwitchBot's gear using these. Some of you might be looking for a new Wi-Fi system, or if you're looking to build a home security system. Well, I put all of those videos into that playlist right there. So that's how you can follow up on any topic we talked about today. You jump around that playlist, look at the different videos. Otherwise, thanks for watching today. And of course, live smart. Whew. Tired after that.